All right, so this is attempt number 2 for me on recording this. My review of the 2020 NASCAR schedule, it is going to be over a Hangout. I'm just doing this in private, so if there's any problems, it's a Hangout problem, as usual, what they do. Anyway, so I'm going to share screen really quick, and we're just going to hop right into this and see what we got. All right, so 2020 schedule. There's some things on here that I don't think should be a surprise. Daytona being the first race of the year shouldn't be a surprise at all. Then the West Coast swing gets moved up a week. Las Vegas, Fontana, Phoenix. Phoenix keeps the same week it had before. Fontana's moved 2 weeks back, and Las Vegas moved a week back. I think this is good, better for the teams, and it just gives you something to hype up right off the bat. Atlanta being second in there really didn't. How do I put it? It really didn't belong in that. You had the Daytona 500, this big date, and then the West Coast swing was hyped up for 2 weeks later after Daytona. And then you just had Atlanta sitting there right in the middle. Now you can just flow right into your marketing deal and go with that. And Atlanta gets moved to a better date weather-wise compared to what it was the past few seasons, aside from this year and 2016, I believe. The racing has been hampered by weather a lot. So this is a good change, I think, in my opinion. So in the good bad tally, we can put one for good for this one. Now Miami being moved, that was moved off from being the last race of the year. It's sort of floating in the void at this point, is where it's at on the schedule. I kind of have to agree with a lot of people that it's sort of almost a meaningless race at this point, the way it's looking. With the championship, it really had a reason to be there. It had something that made it stand out, something that helped it be a place to go with fans. And I believe it was IDK was saying, IDK player was saying something along the lines of, if that place gets left from being the championship race, it's going to be a ghost town. I'm hoping for the track and NASCAR's sake he's wrong, but I don't think he will be wrong. I think that it's completely right that it's one of those races that, the way Atlanta was last year and this past year and a few years now, where it's just out in the void. So that's too bad with them, but hopefully it'll work out. I hope the weather is good for that time of year. Then you got Texas, Bristol, Richmond, Talladega, and Dover. It's basically the same as what it's been. I believe, is it Richmond is getting moved to Sunday, or is it staying Sunday? I can't remember, but it's basically the same as what we got now, which I don't think anyone's really too upset with. This is a good portion of the season anyway, racing-wise, especially these 3 dates, Bristol, Richmond, Talladega. Always usually put on a good show. Dover, there's first race in May. Then Martinsville. Martinsville will be a night race on Mother's Day weekend. I will put this again in the good change tally, because Martinsville, in my opinion, is one of the most special places on the schedule. It's one of the best ties to NASCAR's old roots that we still have, that NASCAR lets us still have. And at the same time, it's something that, people love Martinsville and lights. I remember when they put lights there, I was against it, but it has grown on me. And the racing and the moments under the lights, I think, in my opinion, even though I'm more of an old school fan with it, I think it's earned a place for me. So I'm happy NASCAR gets a night race. I know that everyone's really been clamoring for that. Hopefully it's not too big of a hit on TV ratings. Again, that's what we have to remember with all these changes, is most of them are TV ratings driven. And TV ratings do matter when it comes to how much of these races we can watch, where we watch them, etc. But Martinsville being Mother's Day is kind of like how Darlington was, where even though it was moved off its main date, Darlington still felt special in that date of Mother's Day. And now, after Darlington was there, we kind of got just stuck with Kansas, and Kansas is one of the most dull tracks on the schedule. You could mix it up for probably 6 or 7 other tracks if you were someone new. And to be quite honest, it sort of was a pay to play with Hollywood Casino and with Sprint and everyone. And so, not having all of that there now and being able to move Martinsville there, I think it can be something to start a new tradition. I'm hoping that they just leave it be right there, but only time will tell. Then we got, you see there's a week off right here. That's just for the All-Star race. You see down here if this thing would go away. Yeah, there it goes. Yeah, the Clash and the duels are the same. Much to other people's dismay. Kansas moves back to where it was in 2011, which my opinion is probably the best date possible on the schedule for it to be. It fit really well on the schedule at that time, and the weather is warm enough because, again, when about a month earlier, where Mother's Day is, or half a month earlier, it's still cold at night in the Midwest at that time of year. So if it's a day race again, I think it'll be only a net positive for ratings. Michigan gets moved to the first week of June. Again, I think Michigan should be on Father's Day. It fits, especially with all the manufacturers and everyone there. It feels special in that first date, but that's their choice, and it's been moved before. Could be moved back. Who knows? Hopefully, honestly, it's not too different for 2 weeks, and the ratings shouldn't be hit too bad with it. Again, these will all be on Fox Sports 1 more than likely. Sonoma, be June 14th. Again, it's about the same where it was before. What I would like is if you switched a little bit around. You had Sonoma in the West Coast swing. You took Bristol and put it in the summer. That way you could avoid the weather problems we've been having in Bristol the past few years when the Cup Series races there. And you have another West Coast swing track that could really put some pizzazz to the start of the year. Because, to be honest, these 3 tracks are nothing special. Nothing really that special. You put Sonoma probably, I'd say, either right after Fontana or right before it. I think right there you have something that makes it stand out. You have more of almost a wild card kind of race, and it'd be a welcome change in my opinion. Plus, it would look a hell of a lot better. The dead drab look that Sonoma has during the summer, I think it needs to be replaced in fans' minds with the lush green picture of Sonoma that you've been seeing from February and March. It would fit a lot better, in my opinion, be more aesthetically pleasing. And I think that racing-wise, it would be a net positive. But again, big changes probably coming in 2021. We shouldn't be too upset that there weren't some changes, because there were some changes to be upset about. Again, some I liked, some I didn't. Chicagoland will be Father's Day this year, which, again, if it's gauging from what I've talked to with people at Chicagoland when I'm there, they just want the race to be during the summer so they can have fun. Chicagoland really lost a lot, especially in the infield, lost a lot of its identity really amongst fans when it got moved from the summer to the fall. The weather wasn't as good. The racing really at Chicagoland, it's like good once every 4 years, but weather wasn't good. People stopped coming. So keep it in the summer, and if you have it on Father's Day, it's something special to look forward to. So I believe that's the last Fox race, but hopefully we just keep going with what we had in 2018. That was a pretty good race, pretty good finish, and hopefully 2019 will keep up on that so we can have some momentum going into 2020. So going into the NBC portion of the year, this is where really stuff gets shaken up, which shouldn't be a surprise. NBC has tried a lot more in the last few years to shake stuff up. They put more money, time, big names, you name it. They put a lot into NASCAR when really, if you look at Fox, others haven't. Fox has put some money into it, but at the same time, they've also cut back on stuff. NBC is trying to be ingenuitive, I guess you could say, and put something new to the fans and trying to refresh it. And it really paid off last year. I think a big part of the reason why most people enjoyed the last half of 2018 was because of the TV coverage. Hopefully in 2019, this excitement and enthusiasm put forth by the TV partners isn't just something that's outdated. I don't think it will be. I think with the team they have there now and the way that they're willing to change it up, you're going to have some good coverage from them for the next couple of years for sure. But it starts out with the doubleheader at Pocono. It's a big thing. Now you can stop making jokes about Pocono only being a month apart. Pocono now might not even be 24 hours apart. Uh, I I like that they did a doubleheader, so I guess you could put it in the good category again. So 3-0 for good. But I wish they would have done it at another track. But if you look at the tracks with 2 dates on the schedule and where they're placed right now, there is no way that, aside maybe Dover. Dover's the only one I could see aside from Pocono that would make that leap to have something that big. Because I mean, you look at Las Vegas, not going to change it. Daytona, then they have other reasons I'll get to in a bit that they're not going to change it. Phoenix, again, other reasons they're not going to change it. Texas, Bristol, maybe Richmond, but Richmond I think fits pretty well in the playoffs from what they want. Martinsville isn't now. Charlotte won't for sure, especially with the Roval. It's just too much to try and ask in one weekend, and plus you have Crown Jewel race. You're not going to make a doubleheader out of that weekend. So it's logical, and it helps condense the schedule, which I like. The schedule really needed that, and that's an overarching thing, again, that I would put in the good category. Again, the good outweighs the bad with this. It's just the bad is so bad that it sort of overshadows it. But another good thing about this schedule is it really shortens it up. You know, you're not going to be ending as late as you were before. Again, it's still going to be late ending. I think they still need to work on shortening it up. But right there, they got the blueprint. That doubleheader is the blueprint to shortening up NASCAR schedules. I will get to Indianapolis in a bit when we get to Daytona. But Kentucky, New Hampshire, about the same as they were before. We have a 2-week break, though. A 2-week break, in my opinion, is a bad thing. Not just because I want to watch racing. I love watching racing, but objectively, if I look as a NASCAR fan, it's not a good thing. Like I said before, we need to know and work on getting our viewership up as a sport overall. And as I say, NASCAR sanctioning body does. And NASCAR's proven for at least the last 15 years that bye weeks really kill a lot of the momentum with viewership. And now you have a group of viewers in modern day who have a shorter attention span, forget really quick. If you want to get those mystical, casual fans that you're chasing after, that's not the way to go about it. But at the same time, don't blame NASCAR for it. NASCAR really probably had their hand tied here. NBC covers the Olympics. The Olympics are probably the biggest sporting event draw in the world. There's no way they're passing up not putting their full effort into that for NASCAR. NASCAR is not what it used to be. Now, had this been in 2005, or not 2005, what is it, 2008, 2004, I could see them, this being a bad move on their part, how popular NASCAR was. But nowadays, NASCAR is going to take the back seat to the Olympics, or always going to take a back seat to the Olympics. You're going to take a back seat to football, basketball, baseball. Overall, because of its drop in popularity, NASCAR is a second-tier sport with popularity. We have to accept that. And this shouldn't be a shock. It shouldn't at all be a shock. NBC made the smart move on their part. And personally, if I were on NASCAR's behalf, again, to shorten up the schedule and also to keep some momentum up, I'd say bite the bullet for 2 weeks, take the bad ratings, and get people back, because at least you're on at the same time butting up with Olympic coverage. But I think NASCAR probably triaged a bad situation here. This is probably at the asking expense of NBC and their directors. So I don't want any hate towards NASCAR on this one, but yes, that's definitely one that's going to be in the bad category. After that, though, after that break, there isn't an off week for the rest of the year, which again is another good thing. Starts out with Michigan, basically where it was before. I think a week earlier than it was before, but no biggie. Watkins Glen moved a little further down, so it's closer to the playoff push. And what I like about that is more than likely it's going to be on NBC's main network. I mean, you look at all these races, they're probably all going to be on NBCSN. This will be on NBC's main network, more than likely. And it's a big draw, especially later in the year when you need to draw those people in right before football's starting, get as many people watching. And you got a good race like Watkins Glen, good track. It's something that I'm good with. So I'll put another in the good category. Dover moved out of the chase, or playoffs, I should say. I like that. I wouldn't say it's neither good nor bad, but if I'm looking at the my preference, I found Dover to be pretty dull. I think it's one of the more overrated tracks on the circuit. Not a bad track by any means, though, but I think overrated. And I think moving it out of there so that what the changes they have made, I would say good move, uh, if it were my opinion. But at the same time, it's not like overwhelmingly good. I see it as just, oh, it's probably good, but no way to tell until we actually go through the schedule. Now, the bad one, Daytona. This is the absolute worst thing on the schedule. And I say it for a few reasons. One, the tradition. You got about 55 years, I believe, someone said, of tradition thrown away for what, in my opinion, is a gimmick and won't last longer than 5 years. I'll get back to that a little later, but basically just a gimmick to end off on a crapshoot, kind of like the championship format overall. Again, I'll just say right here, right now, I don't care much for the playoff system. I really don't care about that fight. I like the racing more or less than the championship anymore. That's what I watch for. But Daytona there, again, it didn't need to change from the 4th of July weekend. It was a good spot. But they did. But the biggest problem, the biggest problem, I cannot stress how big this is where you moved it weather-wise. Now, I'm going to pull up on NOAA. NOAA's a really good website. I believe government website, covers climate and weather and all that pizzazz. But I want to focus on this chart here. Where Daytona was before was about in here. Maybe here, maybe closer there, give or take. Pretty low, pretty low. This is number of storms per 100 years, hurricanes and tropical storms. Now, yellow is just hurricanes. Tropical storms is the orange, if you add that in with the hurricanes. Daytona's in a pretty good spot. Daytona had problems with rain, but any track really does. And then in Florida, you're always going to have problems with rain. But you look where they moved it. All right. Got August 29th. So basically the start of September. You moved it really to about halfway through here. You were almost at peak hurricane season. In my opinion, I don't even know if we're going to get a race in at Daytona when we schedule it, let alone to see how the racing is to get into the playoffs and all that BS. This is a problem. I'll get back to this chart in a bit when I talk about what else I'm going to talk about Daytona. I'll say that till later to the end. But NASCAR went and tried to fix something that wasn't broken. It's a recurring theme with NASCAR over the past 20 years, but this is a very bad change in my opinion. And I think it's one that's not going to last long, but for different reasons than many other people think. But either way, we'll get into the playoff system here or races. Darlington is still on Labor Day. Don't worry. It's just that the schedule has been condensed enough that it can be in the playoffs, open it up, which I think either way, it's all right as long as they keep it on that date. Richmond moves back to the weekend that it was previously, except that it's later in the season, which again is a good thing. So that's good. And then the Bristol night race, this is another one I do not like. I don't like it being later. I think you're really screwing with something that's working. Even with attendance down, that place still gets about 70 to 100,000 people in there, which for a modern NASCAR race is huge. I don't know what to say, really. I don't know really what to say other than I think they should have left it right here, right where Daytona is. They should have left Daytona alone too, but they didn't. Keep Indianapolis in there for all I care. Have Indianapolis on that date, but don't mess with Daytona. But at the same time, with Indianapolis out here, I guess one good thing is it won't be butting up against a Colts game. This might butt up against a Titans game. Well, no, it won't because it's Saturday night. So, yeah, I understand why they're doing that. Depending on what the Raiders do, Las Vegas being in the playoffs in the future could butt up against the Raiders. But I really don't see many people showing up for a Raiders game in general. At least not with Chucky as coach. But that's for a different day. Talladega is about the same what it was. Again, Las Vegas moved like 2 or 3 weeks back, maybe a week back. I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I understand. As long as they don't do it on Sunday night to try and go against Sunday Night Football, I'm fine with it. The Roval, about where it was before, maybe changed a little bit here or there, but it's about where Charlotte's always been. Kansas, no change. Texas, third to last race of the year, still just moved 2 weeks back. No change there. Martinsville to set the Final Four. Again, I'm not a big fan of the playoffs or whatever. From NASCAR's business standpoint, I will tentatively put it as good. The racing overall is much better. Overall, the biggest problem is TV wise. Again, that's the big thing that's going to come up here with me, and I'm a big stickler about this. TV wise, this needs to be addressed. Martinsville is not a big TV draw, even in NASCAR's heyday. It still was always 1 million or 2 million viewers behind every other race around it. And those are cookie cutter tracks, the Atlantas, the Charlottes, Texas, give or take, whatever it may be. But I like it, and good birthday present for me, I guess, November 1st. So happy birthday, Jarrett. Be a pretty fun way to spend my birthday, watching what is probably, if not my favorite track, definitely up there as one of my all-time favorite tracks. The big one, I don't like this one either, is Phoenix being moved to the championship race. It's moved a week back, so the season ends 2 weeks early. And while it might not seem like much, I think it is a good enough change that it could condense it enough that NASCAR doesn't have that huge dip in viewership once the chase starts. Usually when it had that big dip in viewership were these weeks. I could totally see Las Vegas being a dip, especially if they go against Sunday Night Football, which, again, I think would be stupid. But Talladega, always a big ratings draw. Charlotte, always a big ratings. Always a big ratings draw. They always have it usually on the main network. And then with the Roval is a big draw. Kansas and Texas, meh. Martinsville, we'll see. And then the championship. But usually the last 3 races pop up a little bit compared to the races around them. So I could totally see this as being I would be tentative about it, but I could see it as being a good change in the schedule. Having it condensed like this. Phoenix is the last race. No, it's boring. It's a very boring track. I don't understand why they would move, racing-wise, why they would move Miami out of that. Miami was a much better track than Phoenix, multi-groove racing, day to night, a lot of changes. It always puts on good racing, especially, honestly, for about the past 10 years, it's put on some really good racing. But ISM got moved there. A lot of it had to do with an investment into the sport, having a sponsored track. Business-wise, it's pretty common sense why this all works for them. But that's really it. That's the schedule. I more or less of the 10 really points to go over with it all. 6 good, 4 bad. It's more good than bad. Like I would say overall for the sport, it's a net positive. It's just that the Daytona change with Indy is so bad. It's going to overshadow all of it. Now, Indy being moved there is a desperation move. I believe this is the last gasp for it. If it doesn't work now, if less people show up, then probably the minuscule amount that show up this year, I don't see long term if Indy can stay unless NBC keeps paying for it to be on. But like I said earlier, and I want to get this as my last point. I'm going to put on my little tinfoil hat here. The reason I think the Daytona being the season finale, regular season finale, is short term is because I don't think it will be there too long. Not because it's moved back, but because I think by 2030 it's going to be the season finale. It's going to be the championship 4 race. And the reason I have this thought is because NASCAR's proven with what they've said and how they act, they're looking for entertainment value, not looking for pure racing. Pure racing goes behind entertainment value. And when you look at races that are most watched, Talladegas, Daytonas, stuff like that, Bristol Night Race, it's known for crashing. A lot of it's known for crashing, as much as a lot of us race fans don't want to admit. That's what people tune in for. A lot of people. Daytona being that last race of the season, there's going to be a lot of crashes, a lot of desperate people, a lot of people trying to prove themselves by the end of the year, the championship 4, all of that. I could totally see by the end of 2030, Daytona being the season finale. I could see even if NBC wants to do a desperation push of having Daytona be the season finale, even as soon as they're in their contract. Again, this is my little tinfoil hat here. This is my speculation. Nothing has been put into stone, but I can see that happening. Other than that, though, I mean, like I said, not too bad of a change. So that's about it. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. I'm really interested to find out what you guys think about it. I'm not overly optimistic, but I am a little more positive with it. I think the big change is coming next year after the contracts run out. I think we're going to see a lot more condensing of the schedules, a lot more double headers, especially if Pocono next year works. Like double headers are probably what we're looking at for the future. But that's all something that's just more speculation. We'll have a lot more about it on the podcast tomorrow night on my channel, 8/7 Central Time. Make sure you tune in. And I hope I see you then. Put what you think in the comments down below. I'll see about reading as many as I can. And until next time, later.